it worked. I think it actually worked. Welcome to team selection night on Wednesday night, folks. Hope you're all doing well from wherever you're tuning in. Just thought we'd try a cheeky little intro and see how that went, rather than me just hitting live and everyone staring awkwardly like we do on most Monday nights. But no, that seemed to work okay. I'm happy with that. So, well, shout out to Canva for having some templates to drop some shit into. That worked out.
I liked it, actually. Yeah, it actually looked really nice. I haven't made an appearance in the intro, so I was quite impressed.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if the music was going to be too loud or not, but I'm like, we'll just roll with it and just see what happens. There you go. That intro's the real doozy. Oh, hang on, let me try this button as well. So I've flicked another button on chat that when anyone in chat types, it should pop up in theory on the bottom right side of the screen. So we'll see what happens there as well. Some new features have been added in, which is kind of cool. But how are you tonight, gents? Welcome back for your second edition of the team selection.
Thanks for having us back. I'm really keen for another video.
You've suited up. You mean business tonight.
Yeah, boys, we are. I'm dressing to impress because it's a business trip this week. There's no mucking around. We got to win this one. We have a chance of winning another game. So I thought, let's dress how we should be going into the game. Serious.
Yeah, if you were to walk into a local football club as a selector in a suit, I reckon players would be shitting themselves. I think they were getting the axe left, right, and centre.
Yeah, probably.
And JR, how are you, mate? You going well?
Yeah, very well. I'd be more worried if I was a coach in that situation. So if the side's not going too well.
Got the full support of the board. Everything's okay.
Yeah, something's definitely going down.
I wonder if that's
if the board have told you they've given you their support, that's even more worrying.
Yeah, that is the telltale sign that you're cooked. So I wonder if that's the type of shirt and tie that the coaches wore out to see old Andrew Dillon and Laura Kane. Their little dinners.
That should have been all but nothing but business. No steak and wine and dine. Nothing but business to tell them to get their shit together.
What I find interesting is the revelations coming from that meeting from like the Scott brothers. Oh, it was a great meeting. It was all good. And the journos pumping it up. I'm like, it's only any good if they actually listen to what the coaches and to an extent the fans are saying. Like if they just all sit there and no one does anything about it, then it's all kind of for nothing. So that'll be interesting.
No, they'll listen, but it'll just go in one ear and out the other. And they'll go do the opposite what we don't want them to do.
No,
they'll survey the fans, see what we want to do, and then do the opposite. That tends to be the way they roll.
Here's a question. How many times do you reckon we've all seen a post from an AFL media outlet saying, based on what the fans have said, they're really enjoying X, Y, and Z? I've never been a part of any of those surveys, and I don't think I know anyone who has. So I'm starting to wonder who these people are that they're actually surveying for these metrics, because every other post I see on my socials is quite the opposite.
Does AFL House employees count as fans?
Yeah, it's all. It could be all internal votes. It's It's. I just don't know where they get their data from. But anyway, we are here for selection night, though. Oh, there you go, RFC Centre. Your comments popped up on the bottom right there.
Hey, there you go.
Very good. So we are here for selection night. Now, last week, I felt it was a bit trickier last week because there wasn't as much going on. But this week, we've already had 2 changes forced upon us. With Tom Lynch going down in the concussion protocol post-game. I think it was Aiden Core, that landed on his head late in the game. It was very innocuous. Yeah. And he obviously played out. Was it in like the last minute or two?
It was like the second last contest. So it was like maybe down to like a minute and a half.
Right.
And then it was Pink and what's his name? And he landed on his forearm, landed on his head. And I think he just kind of shook it off and the doctor said he seemed fine. But then it was when he went back to the club rooms, he was feeling pretty crook. So...
Yeah, okay. That makes sense then as to why he played it out. I couldn't really tell how early it was into the last quarter or whatnot, but that does make sense now. And obviously Noel Bolter will be tucked up in bed with a Milo. And even more annoyingly is he actually misses the bloody VFL game too. Although I'm starting to wonder, JR, would there be more temptation to play him for a half in the VFL than, you couldn't do it in the AFL. But would there be temptation there to try it in the VFL?
Depending on how long it would take to get home, I think playing for a half would make sense because so long as he can get home on time, it's all good. It's not something I've considered, but if it works out time-wise, it does make sense because he'll miss the Giants game as well. And I'm not sure when the VFL game is that week, but he does need game time while he's out with a strained curfew, which can be a bugger of an injury. It needs to be managed as time goes on.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my head was at. It was more about if he's missing the second game as well, you want to get... I know you can do training and stuff like that, but getting back from Frankston, I guess, all it takes is for roadworks to pop up and he's in all sorts of... It's probably not worth it, to be honest, just with how far he's got to go.
Well, if you think about it, you're going to have Taylor Young will be back, Dion Prest will be back, and Mafau, and they're all going to be on minute restriction. So if you take him off at halfway through, you're going to have no bench because they're all going to be on restrictions for their time to play. So you add a fourth person to it. How big's a bench on the reserve in the VFL? Is it 5 or 6, or is it just 4, the same as everyone else?
Yeah. One solution there might be if Tyler Young's he will be on restricted minutes, put him on in the second half to replace Bolter.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can do that, can you? I'm not sure you can bring him in halfway through and then play him at the end. I think they've got to start the game and then be taken off after. I don't think it's a come in later on. I don't think they have a sub rule, do they, in the VFL?
I'm not too sure what they've got or what their restrictions
are. They've got a 23rd man rule. There's a 23rd man rule, but I think you'd be able to play him limited minutes and then play more second half minutes than in the first if that's what you want him to do. You'd be able to,
so just adjust their minutes.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if there was ways around it. But speaking of the players coming back, obviously we had McKelty Lafau come back last week. He played a half. He'll play a bit more again in the VFL this week. Kicked a goal. Tyler Young back for his first hit out this week, which was awesome. It's a bit of a jam-packed backline now, I think, on both parts, in AFL and VFL. So it'll be interesting to see where he fits back in. Do you see Tyler Young finding a way to crack back into the AFL 22? Because prior to him going down with the knee, I don't think he was doing much wrong. And he's obviously very new to the game. I think he started playing footy at 16. So I always felt like the ceiling for his growth was still quite great. But yeah, now you've got Blight, you've got Gray, you've got Broad and Vlosten still doing their thing, and Bolter. It just seems like it's a hot spot at the moment to try and crack into.
I'm guessing it all just depends on how Gray develops and Blight develops. If he comes back and shows better signs, and if not, I think you're right. He's probably going to struggle to get in.
There will be game time there. I mean, as the season goes on, there will be some guys that've got a knock and need managing and all that kind of thing. So it'll work out. Having that extra player there would help in that regard, where we wouldn't have to play someone who's a bit sore any given week.
What about if we fast forward another 3 or 4 weeks? Sorry, that's probably too soon. Let's say 7 or 8 weeks when Gibkiss is then available. Does that throw an even further cat amongst the pigeons? I still think that Gibkiss will play forward if everyone is healthy and fit in the back line to be able to play all these guys at once. I think he might swing forward.
Yeah, that would make sense. So we can go either way. If we did play him back, having a few players there would allow us to manage him more. Because I think the aim for him would be, even if he plays, to get him through to pre-season day 1 next year or later this year. And then he can really get stuck in next year. But just to get him through, I think at this stage would be the way that we want to manage him.
Yeah, with Gibkiss, I'm more of the opinion of probably leaving him in the VFL for the rest of the year and just get a couple of good games into him and then just bring him back into next year. I have the idea of not bringing him straight back into the seniors if he plays 2 or 3 good games. I just think, he needs to build up his games. It's been nearly 2 years since he's played a game, so probably a decent chunk of games. So I would like to see him, what is he, still 7 to 9 weeks away? So the end of the year, I think you're going to get 3 games into him by the time it comes around to it anyway. So I would like us to see him 3 games in the VFL, boom, get him into a good preseason, and that by that time you'd be given that ACL all that chance to actually probably heal up even more.
And Taj Hotton's another one who's coming back. I know he's not playing for a backline spot, but I actually went to make another highlight video of Taj Hotton today, but I just didn't have the time to do it. Just to remind people what player we've acquired for, it was an early-ish pick still, but we've not seen him yet, and you can start to sense the genuine excitement from people within the club that this kid's about to burst onto the scene. And I can't remember what show it was that Uze was on, but it even sounds like it's in Uze's mind, he may not play many VFL games before he starts ripping it apart.
Yeah, he was on with that was with on the radio.
Yeah, it probably says that all that as a fan base, having a return date for him was a date that we were looking forward to before it came around.
Yeah,
because he's got massive potential.
Oh, he could be the gem out of that draft. That, like, I know Luke. You could probably all say we could say Luke Traynor is, because he was meant to be a bit higher. But like Taj could be that gem that that takes a couple of years, then he turns into a similar to a Shea Bolton. Maybe not with the hops, but probably with the IQ. As we all know, probably with Bolton's a little bit more of he just sprays it away. I think Taj has a bit more of a higher IQ. He doesn't seem to waste the ball as much. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think he's going to be a very exciting player to watch. The RFC's loving the Taj. We should make an official Taj countdown clock, I reckon. It probably seems unfair to everyone else though, but there's definitely, if we want to use the word aura, there's definitely some aura about Taj Houghton, and he hasn't even set foot on the field yet, not to place pressure on the young man. I'm going to flick the little side comments off. We'll start getting stuck into the lineups because obviously a few changes to get through, and some may divide some people, and I'm a little bit scared for my own, if I'm being honest. But I'll bring up yours first, Shannon. Talk us through your lineups. Who are your ins, who are your outs, and what matchups and setups do you want to see?
All right, so obviously we all know that Lynch and Bolt will be out. I've decided to take Smith out, and I've also decided to take who was the other one? Steely Green, sorry. I just think with Steely Green, I think he's just getting a bit burnt out. Doesn't surprise me with the young fella. He's had a couple of rough games. I would like to see him probably go down to the VFL and just to get a bit of form back into him. So I brought Blight and Campbell Gray in because they both can go forward and they both can go back. So obviously, it all depends on with the matchup at Essendon. Obviously, someone in Essendon could get a handle of Gray or Miller. And I like the idea of being able to throw Blight down to the back line and try something different. And also, he can pinch ruck. So I know Essendon doesn't have Draper, so they don't have their number one ruck. But at the same time, if you got sort of two semi-ruckmen that can help out, you can probably really wear their ruckman out. And allow Nate to just dominate. Because when Nate tends to dominate in the middle, we tend to win games. So I kind of like that idea. I'm pretty sure my other one is Jasper Alga. I can't help myself. I'm trying so hard to get him in. And then I like the idea of Jasper Alga. He seems to be the player that only needs about 10 disposals, and he seems to kick a goal or two or create them. And also he plays bigger than he is. So I don't think you really need to have Super 3 full tools, but Blight's there for that optionality there if I want to go that way. And I went the sub as Judson Clark. I think he's 3-4. Yeah, it's probably a risky one, but I think he's been back for 3 or 4 weeks. He's had it's two full games into him. Last week's game he had was really good. I was really impressed with it. He seems like he's back to his form. And then Judson Clark is the speedy left footer that you can, if you have to, take another tall out, and it's a tactical sub to take one tall out, bring some speed and good kicking in as well. So similar to what he did last week, but just a couple of more versatile adjustments around because Essendon don't play the traditional two or three big talls. So I've tried to make my team more versatile to move them around. So, and obviously no Jaden Short, but he wasn't going to come in anyway. So I've left Banksy down there as well just because.
Oh, okay. So if Shorty was fit, you wouldn't have brought him in?
No. I just think he's probably in the lines of Steely Green. I'm kind of sticking to Ooz's theory of the players need to earn their spot. I think if you go out for 2 weeks through injury, I don't think you should come back in. To me, that just puts a damper on all these rookies or players that have been 2 or 3 years into their career who've been working their ass off to get back in, to get a spot. Yeah. That some player just misses for 2 or 3 weeks and you just come straight back in. So I'm sticking to the integrity of selection through the rest of the year, no matter what. And that's why I haven't brought him in if he was going to be in. So I'm keeping to my guns on that one.
No, fair enough. I like it. You start Kane McAuliffe in the guts. Happy just to roll him in there straight off the bat. I don't mind that move. I don't mind that move at all.
Yeah, originally I started with, I think it was Sam Lawler. But then I went with, Tom Lynch was out. And I thought, all right, with Sam Lawler, I probably want to play him more forward this week. Just without Tom Lynch there, I think it's going to hurt us a lot more than some people think. So I've gone with the whole Sam Law in there, as we know from last week. Really good pack mark, cool, calm, collected, never seems to fumble too much. So I want to go with someone a bit more dominant in the forward line. And then I went with Kane McAuliffe, give him a chance in that midfield properly, because we saw last week what he did. In the first quarter, I think he had like 6 disposals. Against West Coast, he did the same thing. And that gives that one player that I want in the midfield that has that power to get out of the contest, because the other two, Hopper and Tranter, are just a bit slow, and they're more of that chip kick. Tranter had 30 disposals last week, and he only had 180 metres gained. So it's obviously the quick handballs out. McAuliffe is that powerful, high-speed burst, big left foot kick. So if I'm going to try and win in the centre, I'm going to try and do it with somebody who can get the ball out, and the other one who can kick the ball. And it's actually Kane McAuliffe is good kick as well. So I'm trying my way to kind of mitigate our flaws from last week with losing in the centre.
He just needs to jag a goal. He's so desperate to kick one, isn't he? He's probably kicked, 4 or 5 behinds almost.
Yeah.
So I think the sooner he kicks one, the better. Looking at matchup-wise, obviously the 2 big defenders for the Bombers are Ben Mackay and Zach Reid. Tom Lynch is a big out structurally. I mean, I know he had probably a 50-50 game last week, but he obviously got a couple of goals at the end. But he just draws that number one forward and just demands a bit more attention. Out of the forwards we've got, when you've got Sims and Jonty Fall in your lineup, is there a preference on who you would think takes Mackay and who takes Reid? And how are we best to try and play them so they don't get on top of us?
I'm probably going to play Jonty on Mackay. I just feel like Mackay seems to like to be a deep forward, and then just try to outpower him. With Jonty, I think Jonty will take him away and make him have to come up the ground, which then makes him accountable. I just don't think Reid would be able to go with Sims's height and strength and overhead marking ability. So you could probably swap them around, but I think if Jonty's going to be on Mackay, I think it will make him accountable. And if you guys see him on the weeks when he plays, my cousin's an Essendon supporter, so I hear a fair bit about it. As soon as he goes up the ground, it just seems to fumble and he panics too much. So it makes him more accountable to have to either turn himself around and make sure he gets back. And Jonty has some good speed, so
he does.
That's my preference that way. Or if you have to, you throw Blight in there, and Blight can just out strengthen him and probably outrun him as well, because as we know, Blight has a very good running ability as well.
And the weather plays a small part as well, I guess, too, with how we're going to take the ball forward. And even with how we defend, obviously they've got 2 metre Peter down there and Kyle Langford. So Ben Miller and Campbell Gray. Look, I'm going to have to assume that it's probably Ben Miller that gets Peter right, I guess. But if someone of that height, it just feels like it's more of a team defence. If it happens to rain a little bit, though, that definitely helps us out a little bit, even with our own forward 50 entries, but also defending their forward 50 entries.
Yeah, and then also 2 metre Peter, if you have to, you can throw Blight on him as well. So I would say Blight's probably a lot stronger than Miller is. I think Miller's just got a bit more of an IQ, had half the contest. So in that way, you could probably swap them around. Maybe you swap them around just to wear out 2 metre Peter, because I think he has to pinch ruck as well. So that's another thing as well. Like without Draper, he's been pinch rucking. So to me, there's another way to wear him down, so that when he goes down to the back line, it's not a no break. He's not getting a breather. It's just an easy player to play on. So Miller and maybe Blight do a job on him and team him up for the whole entire game, because if he kicks 2 or 3 goals and gets on a run, they're pretty hard to beat once 2 metre Peter gets going.
Yeah, he's a very big confidence player. It's quite remarkable that he doesn't help out more in the ruck department, given that they're short on ruckman at the moment. How do you think that's going to go? Speaking of the rucks, Goldstein obviously on the older side, as is Nankervis, if we're being totally fair. But Goldstein definitely slowing down substantially more. Is it a moment in time where he could maybe get some type of advantage potentially? The only concern is off the 5-day break and that Julie just had with big Tristan Sherry, it's hard to tell what kind of shape he'll be, I suppose, himself.
Well, from what Adam Uze said, they're doing their recovery sessions are a bit less, their training sessions are less. So coming off the 5-day breaks, they're not doing as much training, so it's not putting as much tax on the boys. He did mention that in the AFL 360 video that he was on, I think it was last night, that last time they had the 5-day break, they didn't play too well. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're trying to find a way to rectify that 5-day break. But Yeah, with Nate could be tired, but then at the same time, you've also got Blight and Sims. So we know Blight can do a pretty good job temporarily in the ruck, and Sims can as well. So I've got the backup there to rest Nank, and if you have to, you can just throw Nank forward in the forward line, and we know he loves a goal or two. So that's the backup plan is just wearing down. Goldstein had a big game last week as well, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's a bit tired as well.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's always a big battle, the midfield battle. Any other bits and pieces you want to add in for your team?
I want everyone to probably not blast Dow. I saw a lot of people he thought Dow should be out this week. That's why I left Dow in the wing. I think he's doing a superb job. He's not that 1A superstar or a 2 superstar. He's that C and D player that you need in that midfield to build for the future. So I'm keeping my faith in Thomas Dow, just like a lot of people kept faith in Jack Ross, and we'll look what Jack Ross did last week. So I think some of the fans just need to keep a bit of faith in some of these players that, they're not getting 25 plus, but Dow had 9, I think it was 7 or 8 tackles last week and 19 disposals. So he's right above his season average of disposals. So just keep a bit of faith in some of these other players. Don't just smash them for one game.
Yeah, I'm all for. I'm in Thompson Dow's corner big time.
Dow was actually second to pressure up for us last week as well. So he's had a fair game.
Prove my point there.
And he went at 82% efficiency too. Like I saw a lot of people saying, "Oh, he turned it over heaps," but it's like it was only 3 times. So he's doing okay. I just think he's unfortunately a whipping boy just cause. Kylie sends through a really good question. Is Sims ready though? Look, technically probably not, but we've got to make do with what we've got. And look, if nothing else, I guess it's really good exposure and good learning for him to go up against someone like Goldstein, like it was last week going up against, I think he did go up against Sherry a couple of times, not too many.
Yeah.
But the obvious disadvantage, I suppose, Shannon, is the actual physical size difference between a Sims and a Goldstein. But when it's around the ground, there's probably different ways he can kind of mitigate it by maybe standing off him a little bit and running and jumping potentially. So he might have to use his footy IQ to try and get a few ruck taps in there.
Probably could use his youth as well. Like with the whole, if they're ready, half the players we play aren't ready, but the only way they're going to know when they're ready is by giving them enough game time. And that's the whole entire point. We all came into this season thinking there's a chance we don't win a game, but it wasn't the whole entire point. The whole entire point was to get these players in, see a glimpses. Like I'm not after a Jonty Fall or a Thomas Sims to blow the game away. I'm after every game, 3 or 4 moments that they show me that they are building and they are going to be quality players. That's all I'm after. I'm not after them to be a superstar. There's not many players that are like a Sam Lawler or a Harley Reid. There's not many players that come in. They're just straight away they're built to go in. So you just got to give these young fellas some time and some patience to grow and to work out, how they're going to fit into a team and how they're going to fit into the AFL.
No, I completely agree. So I like the lineup. Thank you very much for that. And we'll see how that compares to the other two. I'll bring up yours, JR. Cameron's got a good point though. Worried about the forward line, lack of experience, JR. I think that's a very valid point as we take a look at your side. But again, I suppose we're just kind of stuck with rolling what we've got at the moment. So talk us through your side, JR. Who are your ins, who are your outs, and what do you want to see in your lineup?
Just regarding the forwards, I think it's very important for us without Lynch that we lower the eyes going in because that's going to help them out. And, of course, the forwards need to lead, create space, and then lead into that to facilitate that as well. Because bombing it long and high isn't going to be the answer. No. But if we can do that, then that will help them out. The experience shouldn't be as big a factor. But regarding the ins and outs, I've got Bolter, Lynch, Green, and Trainer, which I've got managed because of the 5-day break. Green to find a bit of form in the VFL, the other two we know about. I've got Light down back, which and a Grey forward. I'm happy to switch them around if need be. I've got Trezise on the wing and Alba coming in the forward line because his form in the VFL has been fairly good.
And you got what was Trezise's numbers in the VFL? I can't remember what they were, but he's definitely in calculations to jump back in.
Yeah, he had 23. I think it was like 5 tackles.
Yeah, he had I haven't seen it, but he had a fairly good game on the numbers. I've left Banks at half back, and I did this before the fitness update came out where Short was out. But if he was fit and ready to go, I would have him in the VFL to find form to come in, because I think Banks has stepped up in that role in the last 2 weeks.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, a lot of people are starting to sway onto that side of the argument, aren't they? Like, Banks, if you were going to play 2 of your best games in a row to secure a spot, he's done it. I mean, I know there's some defensive stuff he can work on for this week, obviously, but he's still growing into it. But he has absolutely done everything right so far, playing off the halfback. So let's say hypothetically, JR, that Shorty does a couple of weeks in the VFL or whatever it might be. Where do you see him slotting back in?
You could potentially put him, if we're planning later in the year to put Lawler more in the middle, you could put Short more at half forward. He can fill that spot. And if Banks needs a week off or whatever, we can always put Short back there because we know he can play that role. So it gives us options this way, having someone stepped up in a new role. Which, when we're in a year when we're looking for development in our players, this is exactly what we're talking about.
And you've got Camden McIntosh in the gut. So I'm looking at Essendon's midfielders. They've got Jaden Laverde, Sam Durham, and Zach Merritt. Would you have K-Mac going head-to-head with anyone in the middle as a tagging role, or have you got him in there as a genuine midfielder to win his own footy?
I actually named this side. It was based on last week's, and I've just added the ins and outs. But I would be in the middle. I would put him on Merritt if need be, because he's the one that can damage us. The other player it wouldn't be a tag, but I would have Campbell on Martin, because he can hurt him the other way, make him accountable.
What's been interesting with Nick Martin?
He can cut us to pieces.
Interestingly, they've actually thrown Nick Martin forward a few times the last few weeks. So I think they actually named him at half forward last week, which has caused a complete carnage in Supercoach. But it'll be interesting to see where he lines up. Like, if he let's work off, if he plays at half forward like what he did last week, who of the halfbacks, is it a Tom Brown job? I mean, to your point, it could be a Sam Banks job, because for similar reasons, he could hurt him the other way when we springboard and Sam Banks is setting everything up.
I would probably choose Brown, because he's better defensively at this point. Like, Banks has improvements in that area to make. But he'll get there. But I think Brown's better defensively, so he'd be the way I go on that one.
And in terms of the players,
question for you guys: do you think that Sam Banks could be the permanent replacement for Rioli when he left, that running, dashing halfback that people now say that if you don't have one or two of them in your team, you're not going to win a premiership?
I like the idea, because we certainly need to replace that. We haven't actually replaced Rolly in that, so either via the draft or if Banks can step up and do that, that solves a problem for us going forward. I would still like to draft a halfback though as well for insurance in that area, but that's certainly one option we can go with.
I think he's showing that he wants to be the player in that role. Like, just those wraparound runs behind plays to get the receiving handball, to get the ball moving quickly. That was very Daniel Rioli-esque. And it was even Jaden Short-esque from a few years ago, but he stopped doing it the last couple of years, whether that's by design or lack of confidence or whatever it might be. But yeah, Banks has got that toe about him, and he's actually quite an awkward matchup, I think, for opposition players too, because he has got a good bit of height about him and can defend. And he probably can hit the scoreboard a little bit similar to what Dan Rioli could as well. Like, doesn't mind having a ping for goal when he was on the wing, for example. But I think it's definitely a long-term view that we have to try. But similar to JR, it wouldn't be the worst thing to look around and see what else is there as well, whether it's the open market or drafting.
Yeah, well, Banks he's got pretty much the rest of this year to prove that that's his spot going forward.
Yeah, pretty much. And if he keeps doing what he's doing, it's going to be almost impossible to take it off him. So he's making sure he have to work for it, which is good.
He goes in pretty hard as well. There were a couple of scraps last week where when he didn't get the ball, but you could see him diving in hard to get the ball, and it didn't work out for him. But he's not scared of going in hard to get the ball.
That's probably been the part of his game that's improved a bit this year for me, is his willingness to put his head over the foot. He might not win it all the time, but he's actually throwing his body in there and making a difference. And that can sometimes halve a contest, which it can be sometimes as good. Well, it's definitely better than losing the contest. But I think that's been one of the big things I've noticed with his game. And even a lot of people in chat noticing that he's got good run and carry and a sneaky long kick as well. So I think everyone's really enjoying his work there. Mason Redmond's probably another one for Essendon that helps set things up behind the play. Doesn't mind getting back for a switch kick. I don't like seeing teams switch the ball against us because I feel like, especially when Lynch and Jonty Fall and whatnot are in, I know Lynch isn't playing this week, but I feel like we're a little bit slow to sometimes shuffle across on that first line and they get a bit further up the ground quicker than what we would like. Do you put someone, I mean, Seth Campbell, I wouldn't say tag a Mason Redmond, but would that be a good one-on-one matchup to try and make him a bit more accountable the other way?
That or Mansell as well could be an option.
Mansell, yep. Mansell's a really interesting one. Like, he's just got that, as we know, that real, I suppose, dog attitude where he's just willing to scrap and fight and do whatever it takes, and sometimes crosses the line. But, I mean, he could be one that ruffles the feathers of Zach Merritt as well at different parts of the ground.
Yep.
What about Sam Lawler?
To play on a Redmond?
Yeah, he's got him as well.
Well, you want Sam Lawler wherever the ball goes, and Redmond seems to find it a lot. And I guarantee Sam Lawler would be stronger than Redmond. So if you could do that, it might cut their running off their back line and then also allow Lawler to get up that forward flank and bring it in. And most of us will say that we would rather have Sam Lawler kicking the ball in that 50 than anybody else.
Yeah, I think that's a fair call.
That's a fair call. So
yeah, he has the
good in the
same height.
Other contest.
Mm.
Oh, it's a different learning thing for Lawler as well.
Stop him hurting us offensively. That's where he's strong.
And he spent quite a few minutes on the ground on the weekend, Sam Lawler. I think it was like 115 out of 130. So whether that means it's a high split of forward versus midfield, because I think his CBAs were a little bit lower with McAuliffe in the side. But looking at their defenders, obviously Andrew McGrath's not going to go to Sam Lawler. Mackay and Reed's not going to go to Lawler. So Redmond is definitely a viable option. And then Archie Roberts and Jackson Pryor, I truthfully don't probably know enough about to understand if they're of the right size. I'll just click on their profile. So Archie Roberts is 184 centimetres. So he wouldn't be
Lawler's 188.
Right? Yeah. So he's on the tallest side, so probably not him. And then Jackson Pryor. So Jackson Pryor might be the one. Then 189 centimetres would be in terms of a height matchup. So he's a young defender.
What's their weight?
It never says anymore, but it looks like visibly from the photo that Lawler does look a bit more defined and muscly than Jackson Pryor. So
did you guys see the video of him standing next to Isaac Kako?
No, I didn't. Did he dwarf him? We made him look tiny.
Oh, he's like his chin was at Kako's head, and it looked like Lawler's arm, and his chest was all puffed up, and he looked like if Kako stood behind him, you wouldn't see him; he'd just disappear.
Speaking of Kako, that's a good segue. Who do we play on him?
There's a photo from today where the guys were lined up at the G for the launch of the game, but
that's what I'm talking about.
And Lawler is taller, and he's a comparable size to Merritt already.
Yeah. So, that's the videos. That's what I'm talking about. They had a video today, so you can jump on the Richmond website and actually listen to them talk. So, yeah, it's piss funny.
So you would send Vlosten to Kako?
Yeah. I just think Vlosten, he's not really that slow, but I think Nick Vlosten also has the IQ to probably try and get Kako when he tries to do his turns, because Nick Vlosten's probably seen it all. He's gone on Eddie Betts and all that stuff, so he's probably seen it all before, and he's going to go, I know where you're going to go or where you're going to try and go. I'm not going to tackle you. I'm just going to corral you and just get you out further away. So, yeah, otherwise no one else in the back line's really that fast. Maybe Prime Broad, but I wouldn't be putting Broad on him.
Who do you go, JR? Yeah.
Well, Broad or Vlosten. Like, Vlosten's done well on the smalls in the past, and he's got good footy IQ.
Yeah, it might have to be. Which would be interesting, given they're getting that little bit older. Any other final thoughts or mentions on your team or any matchups or anything like that?
I've got Smith here as a sub. not keen on having guys as a sub twice in a row. So he either may end up going back to get some full game time if he doesn't play, or there might be someone that needs to be managed that will be sub this week instead. But that's how we could go. But again, would you change your sub? Slow things up a little.
Would you change your sub to? Would you change your sub to Morris Rowley Jr.? There's a lot of people in the comments saying they reckon Morris should be back in there. Would you change him? Would you think Rioli back in for more speed if the weather's the wrong way?
Yeah, I'm open to that as sub. I wouldn't put him in for a full game ahead of Elgar because although he had a good, by the sound of it, he had a good last quarter last week, but he played one quarter. And when you've got Elgar who's been better consistently, again with the selection integrity thing that you mentioned before, we've got to reward form. And if you're putting someone up who's just played one quarter out of 4 over someone else, you can't, like, how do you explain that to someone? And I'm not a fan of putting someone in just because of the occasion either.
No, fair call. There's the sub role is one I think we're still working out ourselves as a team to try and get the right player in there. You see a lot of different versions, don't you? Like Hawthorn have gone with the older players like Bruce and Gunson and players like that.
Yeah.
We've gone younger. I'm not sure what like remember the days when we obviously had Matt White, who was like our permanent sub.
Injection of speed. It's great.
Yeah. It feels like the speed is where it's at. But I mean, like I said, Hawks have had some success with doing what they're doing. But I'll bring up my team. I've gone 5 outs, and I'm a little bit scared with some of the stuff that might come with some of these. So I've gone Lynch and Bolter out, as we know. Yeah. I've gone Green.
What did you do wrong?
I've gone Sims.
You're a hater.
No, I like Sims. This is purely on matchup, weather, and I just couldn't decide between Jonty Fall and Sims. And I think I would be equally as happy to swap them around. And
what's the weather going to be down in Melbourne?
It's meant to be.
The weather. I just had a look before we went on air. It's 0 to 4 mil, but showers in the morning, but nothing mentioned for the when the game will be on.
Can you take my rain? I'm in mid North Coast, and we've been flooded in. But you can have my body 4 days of I'm up in mid North Coast, up near Port Macquarie, and I went to the grocery store today. It was yesterday. I'm like, I just got this weird feeling, and the next minute my missus goes, "Oh, go pick up the kids. There's flood warning." And then tonight, it's like, the bridge is gone, so we're not going anywhere.
Bloody hell. Hopefully that all clears up for you.
I'm safe. We're up on the hill.
So the rationale behind it is it's because I think having Jacob Blight and Campbell Gray gives us another level of flexibility that we don't have with Sims. Like Blight and Gray can both play forward and back. Blight can also ruck, so we've kind of got that part. But I just think that if Essendon are just going with Goldstein as their ruck, I think Blight can exploit him a bit better than what Sims can because Blight's a bit more physical. He's got a bit more size. He's still equally as fit and as explosive and will get around the ground. So if we're going to use him in spurts, I think that it can work. And I just think so. RFC, the reason why I've done this as well, a fullback replacing Dim Sims at full forward, if you cast your mind back to when Blight did have stints at full forward, he actually hits the contest and competes really, really hard. And I just think that from a maturity standpoint, with his body size, with his experience, he's obviously a mature age player compared to Sims and Jonty Fall. We've lost Lynch. We've got no senior bodies down there. We need someone that's got a bit more size and a bit more fearless, running and jumping and flying and crashing those packs. And I just think having the two newbies down there might catch us out a little bit. And I think they might be easier to contain. But someone like a Jacob Blight, I think, adds a bit more unpredictability from an Essendon trying to defend it point of view. I think his run and jump is really good. He's a good timer, takes his grabs, and having the defensive mindset as well will also be able to bring the ball to ground like we want them to do anyway. I just felt we needed a bit more of an experienced player there. Even though it's not by a lot, I think his age and size makes a big enough difference to justify not having one of Sims or Fall in there. And it's difficult because I get the learning perspective as well from those guys. The only reason why I've done it is because I genuinely think it's a game we can win. If it was against someone that I didn't think we could probably beat, you'd leave Fall and Sims in there as a learning experience. But I really do think they're right for the picking. And I think we just have to be clever enough about what we put up forward to make sure we've got enough grunt up there to be able to get the job done, just to kick a score. So that was my rationale behind it. Morris Jr., I've gone for sub. Look, I know he didn't have the best 3 quarters in the VFL, but his last quarter was obviously pretty electric. Everything he touched turned to gold, and played in the midfield, which I don't think he'll maybe do this game, but I would love to see him play midfield minutes at some time in the future. Trezai's in on the back of his game as well, and I'm still persisting with Jasper Elga. I'm pretty confident I'm going to leave him in there green until it happens. We're trying to manifest this to get it to come through.
We'll make it happen. Don't worry about that.
Bauer did not come into consideration on the back of one disposal or whatever it is. For me, honestly, he's got a huge attitude problem at the moment, and that's just an outside looking in perspective. I think if I was to have a genuine stab at the dark, I'm saying he's maybe got the shits on a little bit, that these other kids are getting the games ahead of him. He's been in the system a couple of years longer. I'm not buying what he's selling at the moment, and I think I would have him in there 100 times over based on current output. Now, Nathaniel McKelty is a name that definitely did spring to mind.
No.
Just couldn't do it, though. He's only played a half. He's not going to be anywhere near match fit. He needs to get that 3 or 4 weeks. He'll come in 100% when he's done 3, 4, 5 weeks, whatever it might be.
He'll be a Jonty Ball replacement.
Yeah, because Jonty's going to get tired like all the older kids, all the younger kids will. I just don't think it's the right time to bring him in. Fawcett's another one, Leo. Again, Fawcett is definitely in calculations. I still just felt that Jacob Blight was a bit more aggressive and a bit more mature to play the role we need to play. I think that Fawcett's equally as raw as Jonty Fall and Sims. I don't think there's too much difference if we were to swap them out. I just think Blight gives us 5 to 7% more than what one of those guys will, which might be enough to help him out. And I could be totally wrong as well, but that's how I was rationalizing it in my own mind. But yeah, that is the side. Luke Traynor, look, some of these guys will get some tired legs as the year gets on, but
and I get the whole tired part, but they were doing the whole we play you as a sub, like they did with Luke Traynor and Tom Brown, so you're only playing a quarter, but you're still there at the game and you're still learning. Like that game when Luke Traynor was a sub, I'm pretty sure it was Nathan Broad who, when he was on the bench, before he was even subbed in, he was sitting there asking Nathan Broad questions, and like Nathan Broad's pointing and teaching him on the field as the game's happening whilst he's on the bench to learn. So it's probably what's going to happen through the year is that they'll play games, but they'll be a sub. So they get a good quarter and a half, it depends on how we're winning or going well.
Yeah.
You still get that chance to learn whilst, being on the bench. Now, I got another one for you both, and I think you'll both blast me for it. Would you change Jacob Blight for Jacob Kowitski, if I can say his name right? Because he's played forward when he's at Hawthorn. He's played forward and back, so he can do both. But he's a senior player who's been around in the system long enough to play what it's like playing in the forward line and playing in the back line.
He's definitely an option we can go with. He can also ruck, which helps.
He hasn't played bad. He's done well in the VFLs.
I'll give you a stat on Sims. This year, I've been tracking the ratings for all the draftees. Lawler has been number 1 all year, and after only 2 games, on the average, Sims is number 2 on the player ratings.
So you're really saying I've botched this then, is what you're saying, JR?
That's
what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing.
Just a little bit.
No, I like that, though. That's impressive from him. He hasn't done anything wrong at all. Because he one's an interesting one. I mean, he can play both ends. I guess it just comes down to, do we think Blight can offer more in those areas than what Cozzy could? I feel like Blight probably could, but it's a valid option. I mean, look, I truthfully I don't see him being there past next year, to be honest.
I was going to ask that question. If he can't get a game in right now, when Lynch is out, with his experience of how long he's been in the system for, that means by the end of the year you're not going to see Kowitski be gone. You're not going to see probably Bauer's probably gone, and so is Trezai. So not Trezai, sorry, Tyler Sonzi. Those players aren't in. Yeah, so with the way with those 3 players, with they can play great, but they're just not getting in. So that's it's hard, isn't it? To try. It's weird to say it's hard to squeeze somebody in.
Yeah, Sonsy's a hard one. I mean, we've been here before with him regarding what he does in the VFL and comes up in the first. But I didn't put him in the side because I can't fit him into the midfield, given McCall played well last week. And
I was the same.
Personally,
I can't do a whole forward shit. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm the same as Michael's. It's why I train him to play in the midfield in the VFL, and then put him in the seniors and just play him at the half forward. So that's why I struggle to get him. Like I wanted to, 37 disposals and 1 goal, nearly won the game for us. It's just hard to see him.
I couldn't justify putting him in to then name him at half forward and go against everything that I've been angry about the whole time. So you just know that he's going to get traded and he's going to smash it somewhere. It just won't be surprising in the slightest when it happens. And I couldn't begrudge him. Well, here's a question from RFC. He's playing well, but is taking Dow out for Sonzy a reasonable replacement? I mean, possibly, but only if they play him in the midfield. There's no point playing him on the wing or half forward because we already know what that looks like. It only works if they're prepared to give him the midfield minutes where he's actually playing really good footy. But they just
Dow seems to be that fix-it man where you can kind of put him anywhere and he still does the same job. Like he'll still put his head down, he'll still get hit hard, he'll still break tackles, and he will tackle. So I feel like where Dow's defense isn't super, but it's probably say the above average of the average standard, where I think Sonsy's doesn't even hit the standard of defensive capability. So that's why I just can't see Dow going out for him anytime soon.
I think that's what is most definitely keeping him in the side. It has to be the reason why Sonsy's not playing in the midfield. I know EJ's mentioned it a few times on Monday night. It can be the only thing. It's the only thing left that we just don't think has maybe been ticked off. But yeah, it's interesting. It's going to be a really, really big game. Do you guys have that genuine vibe that we can win this? I really think we can.
Yeah, I've got because it's meant to be wet or potentially wet before the game. I had a look. There's been a narrative around Essendon that they play an uncontested brand. So I had a look on Wheelo. Their contested possession percentage is 2% below anyone else in the competition, and we're AFL average in that area. So that's an area, if it is wet, we can get them if it's an in-tight sort of game. Because they like to sort of uncontested mark and all that sort of stuff. That doesn't stand up in wet weather football, and it also doesn't when the heat is on them. And as you guys mentioned on Monday, when you put heat on this mob, they do crumble.
Well, speaking of the heat,
I have a bit of fear. I have a bit of fear against. Like, I think it's a winnable game, same as it was against North Melbourne. I think I will probably to go to my grave that was a free kick to Tom Lynch every single day of the week. But we burn our opportunities. But I think this is a game where it is definitely possible for us to win. I just have that fear that I think you have, Michael, is that, of course, they play the shittest game they possibly can the week before us, and they're going to have their revenge game. But I also have that same thing is, are Richmond players pissed off because we didn't win last week when week before we were able to steal the win? So they're going to come in with more fire in the belly and not lose the first quarter to 6-0 to 3-1, whoever it was in the end. So I've got a feeling that we can bounce back that first quarter. And I feel like if you give Essendon that first punch, and it's a hard punch, they just crumble. And they did that on the weekend as well.
I think, JR, it's all about getting off to a hot start, isn't it? Like, it's one thing to have territory, have possession, but we've got to hit them where it hurts on the scoreboard. And this is where the Lynch factor hurts a little bit. So what I want to know from everybody, and I'll get both of your opinions. So prior to knowing about the Lynch concussion, and we all assumed Lynch was in, how much more confident were you with Lynch in versus how much confident are you now with Lynch out? Like, how much has it dropped? Or it might not have dropped at all, but does it make that big of a dent with having him not in the side?
Well, certainly they're going to come out hard, but we've got to absorb and also return fire on them on the scoreboard. Regarding Lynch, obviously it hurts him being out. He's a very, very important cog in our side currently. If, as I said before, if we can lower the eyes and hit lead up forwards and all that and put on the scoreboard early, I think we can get on top of them. Because they don't handle pressure very well. That's where the start's very important for us.
And
you go, sorry.
Oh, yeah, and just to double up, the 5-day break, as RFC Centers pointed out, after a grueling and taxing game. Like that contested game we had against North was off the charts. How do you think we're going to go as a younger side and the older players too? Like, let's not forget about them backing that up 5 days later. And Uze said this during the week on 360, I think it was, that we didn't handle the 5-day break well last time. I think we got belted like convincingly the following game.
Yeah.
So I wonder what we're going to be doing different to try and rectify that, given how hard that contest was.
Oh, it's a good question. I've got to feel like maybe they've kind of prepared for it because they've known the schedule for a while. They realized last time we kind of, this is what we did wrong. I'm hoping that, as with the coaching that we have, which is quite experienced, that Ooze can get them ready for what it's like for a 5-day break. Like I've mentioned before, they have changed their training program so that, their workloads are quite light, especially on the short breaks. So the players are a bit more rested, but still obviously fit enough to go. With the Lynch one, I'm kind of really haven't changed my feelings, surprisingly, actually. I thought I would be a bit more worried, but maybe I'm a bit more excited. We might lose, but I'm a bit more excited to see what the young forwards can maybe kind of pull out a hat themselves. Like, could Jonty Fall had a bad game last week? Like, it wasn't a horrible game, but it wasn't, to what he normally does. Could Jonty Fall light him on fire? Like, that's the thing about Essendon. Like, some of their players have been there for quite a while, so they've probably played against some of the players a few times. A lot of these players haven't played against Richmond's younger players. So is there a chance that one of the young players kind of catches on fire? And I'm kind of feel like Sam Law's due for a game where he kicks 4 or 5 goals and just turns a game by himself and does a Harley Reid. He has that, to me, he has that ability to do it. He has the ability to do a Dusty where he can turn a game on its head by himself. So I'm a bit more confident not more confident, but my confidence hasn't changed when Lynch went out. Like, it was annoying. I don't like Lynch being out, but maybe in the long run, it's good for him to have a break and get a rest of his body.
Yeah, and we spoke about that last week, didn't we? That at some point, I don't think we thought it was going to be this week and it was going to be forced, but that he would need some time off being an older player as well. So I think there might be some benefits there besides the fact of the head knock. But what all worries me with Lynch being out is more about, like, Mackay's probably in a bit of isn't a bit of a slump with form, and he might start to feel good about himself playing on a Jonty Fall or a Tom Sims, who he should, by all rights, really, should be able to have his way with on experience and size. But on the flip side, if we can somehow spoon feed his direct opponent some really good possessions early, maybe some early goals, it could turn ugly and get catastrophic really quick for them, JR. And I think trying to throw Mackay off his game like that by getting someone on the scoreboard early could be enough to maybe rattle him.
Yeah, that would certainly help. And the other thing with their young forwards is they do go up the ground even for their age, which is very good. So they might be able to go, and Mackay can either follow him or not. But if he doesn't, we may get a mismatch on the way back, if that makes sense. Because if, say, he's on fall and Jonty goes up the ground, if he doesn't follow him, he's got to then pick him up when he comes back inside 50. Which, if he's having the man somewhat, whoever we do bring in to go forward, that may help us there, maybe. But there was a comment that came up on Monday's show in the chat. I forget who it was that posted it. But without Lynch, we're going to be a lot less predictable up forward.
It's a fair point.
At the moment, we've been bobbing along to Lynch. He's got 3 blokes hanging off him. We're not going to be able to do that this week because he won't be there. So he could actually help us in that regard, because they won't necessarily know who our main target will be up forward.
That's a good way to look at that, actually. Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
I think it only works, though, if we then start to lower our eyes. Like, if we just keep bombing it in, I think at some point they'll be able to work it out and cut it off. Just because, and that's why I want Blight in, because if we do persist with kicking it long, I think Blight's going to have the biggest aerial presence out of Sims, Fawcett, Gray, and whoever else. So that was the rationale. But if we lower our eyes, then it becomes totally unpredictable, even to ourselves, let alone the opposition. Like, it's I suppose it's been a bugbear, Shannon, for a few years now for us as Richmond supporters that our forwards seemingly don't get on their bike enough and lead into the lanes and open up space. It's always just stand still, arm up, and drop it in on 5 people.
Yeah.
We've kind of been built
to get on their bike.
I just think that the core has been for so long. It's been the whole kind of stuck to that old 2017 where it's just Jack Riebolt. kick it to Jack, and then he marks it, or we bring it down to the mosquito fleet. I maybe feel like that's been stuck a little bit too long, but it's taken a while to change. Like Uzis had to come in and change the whole entire system to. I know last year that he tried a different way, and a lot of the players didn't like it. So maybe that's another one that he's trying to do. But like if you look at the last 2 games, I think it's 2 or 3 games, we've averaged like 50 inside 50s, which is stupid to say that when I say it, but good. Which has been good. But then you look at the percentage, and it's like going into, I think it was half time, we had like 30 something inside 50s, and we were sitting at like 20%, and they were at like 46%. That's the one that only annoys me. I would rather we do what we did against Brisbane, and you only get 30 to 35 inside 50s, but you're sitting at 45 to nearly 50% because you took your time and found the targets. It doesn't matter. We can't just pump it in. We don't have a Shane Edwards. We don't have a Rioli and a Bolter and a Jack Rebo anymore. So it's going to have to be some sort of way of adjusting it, and it's probably a good way to do is now it's unpredictable. When in football, if it's unpredictable, it's chaos. So naturally it becomes chaos.
Chaos is king. And the other interesting stat, JR, the commentators mentioned on the broadcast for the Kangas game is that when we've been able to keep opposition under 80 points, we've been very, very much we've either won all of those games or we've been in the
we won them all.
To win it.
Yeah, we won every single game, and then we won every single game, and then they laughed because the West Coast got to 79.
Oh, right.
I think
it was Ben Dixon over the week. Yeah, Ben Dixon said it.
If the opposition get over 80, where zip 26 or something like that, and then it's one, and I think it's now 2-5 under 80 points. But I was laughing at that. The West Coast one was funny because the last 2 weeks have got to the same number.
So, Jar, can we keep Essendon under 80 without Bolter?
If it's wet, that'll help. But we've got to put pressure on them. And regarding the inside 50 numbers, just keep it at 50 but lower the eyes. And I think our crummers become very important in that mix as well, because Campbell's in great form at the moment. He's someone they have to put time into. So I'm not sure who they'll put on him. And Jonty's due a big game. He's done some nice things but hasn't been lucky on the scoreboard. He's due to get a return for effort in some way.
I suppose the stat we need to increase, Shannon, so we talk about inside 50s, but it's the marks inside 50 that we need to get up. That's the one where we'd like with, because that generates your better shots at goal.
Yeah, we're quite low. I think we're maybe in the bottom in the competition for marks inside 50s. And I think we've had a few games where we've had like 3 or 4, which is quite concerning. But at the same time, do we expect that with the young players that we have? Like, is that expectation for you guys? Did you think that would come in and just be clunking them all the time, or do we expect that we're going to have lulls in games where we just can't mark it because it's shit coming inside 50? And that's another concern as well. Like, is it just a delivery coming inside 50? Because as we know, like Taranto isn't the greatest by foot. It's more the get it on the boot and just thump it away. So it's probably maybe that's something we need to find a way to work on. Is that if we want more marks inside 50, then we need to work out on our delivery. Inside 50, so it's a good one to. Yeah, or McAuliffe. We know McAuliffe's great at it as well. McAuliffe's a great kick as well, and they both got big booming kicks. Like Lawler almost kicked a goal from 65 last week, and looked like he barely even tried.
Yes, he did too. Yeah,
one step forward, more two steps from goal.
Our lack of marks inside 50 is the end result of bombing to Lynch 1v3 every time. I mean, if we start hitting some targets, we'll get marks.
Yeah, exactly right.
Because as I said before, when Lynch is there, the opposition know exactly where it's going and they know how it's getting there. It's long and high.
Yeah.
And they've got defenders around there to prepare. They're already prepared for it. They know where it's going to be. That's where we need to mix things up a little. And this is where I was frustrated after the Hawthorn game, because we kept doing it, and they'd get it and just rebound it out. And decent sides will do that to you. So we've 100%. Got to change the way we go inside 50 and be smart about it.
Yep,
that's where Blake Carousel needs to adjust. Do you think by now Blake Carousel has seen it all? I think that's maybe that's just the whole entire thing of a young team. That's not as easy for them on the field to make that adjustments. Or is that also coming off a Hopper and Taranto for them not to realise what's going on, for them to be the senior voices and say, hey, look, this is what they're doing. We need to switch what we're doing because we play a controlling, a chaos mix more, I think, than anybody else does. So maybe they need to work out when there's a time when they're just kicking it and we're just going back in with chaos, and maybe we need to bring it back down to control, because there's a few games we've done that where we've just stopped the bloody stupid kicks and we've just chipped it around and we eventually made our way in and it worked. So I just need to work out when to do it more often, instead of just this whole entire. I think you said it last week. Was it this week or last week, Marcus, where Lawler had it up on the flank and you just wouldn't kick it in there. And that's where I think, is that the young experience, or is that just the senior players not yelling at him, hey, get it going? Look, it's 3-on-3. It's an even contest. Let's just give it a crack.
Yeah, it could be a combination of those two things, and possibly coach direction as well. I'm not sure, but I'm sure we'll get better at that as time goes on. But before we get a tip, including margin, to wrap up, I just want to get both your thoughts on Dion Presti's return. JR, I'll start with you. Dion Presti getting back to the VFL this week. I mean, I don't know how many quarters he's going to play. Based on Uze's language, I get the feeling that he'll be back in the senior side sooner rather than later. I'm not necessarily saying next week, but yeah, I don't know where his fitness is at. But what are your thoughts on Dion getting back in, or just back to football in general?
Well, I think we've got 2 games before the bye. I wouldn't put him in before then. I would look to do so afterwards, but I think maybe a half this weekend and see how he goes. But I'd like the idea of 3 or 4 weeks in the VFL, and if his body can hold up to those full games, then he can come in. Because what we're doing last year is this amount of time out and put him straight in the seniors, he'd break down again in a week or 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we've almost got to push him to see if his body can handle it before we bring him in again. Which is, I know it's a bit of a risk, but it's one that we've got to take.
Yeah, fair call. Shannon, what about your thoughts on Prestia?
I'm wrapped he's back. I love the old meatball, but I was a bit shocked because it was a couple of weeks ago. It was only like 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden it was 1 to 2. Then it was he's back. So I don't know if they were just tempering our expectations. I know we have Essendon this week, the Giants away, and then Sydney back at the MCG. Then it's the bye. I'm probably of the opinion of same. Yeah, I'm probably the opinion of the same as JR is after the bye, give him a chance to, a good solid foundation. It's what we're doing with the rest of the players. Like we're doing that with Judson Clark. We're trying to do that with Smiley. We're going to do it probably with a foul as well. Mm-hmm. And Taylor, you've got to give him at least a 4-week block, because it's great that you can run around an oval constantly, but it's different when it's high speed. It's not just the constant jogging, it's the whole go from 0 to 100 and then you slow back down and 0 to 100 again. My concern is that he's going to play 2 weeks in the VFR and then he's cooked again. That's my biggest fear. Is it's going to be he gets in, has 1 good game, we're all excited, and then training comes up. Oh no, he's sore again. He's going to be out for another 3 or 4 weeks, and then we may have burnt an opportunity to bring somebody else in.
Fingers crossed, Serple's got him fit and firing. I think he actually had a couple of weeks off to get the Achilles to calm down a bit. I think it was just some flaring up and some soreness. So yeah, we'll see how he goes. But fingers crossed he can get through. I mean, the VFL is going to be hugely watched this weekend, undoubtedly, just with the players who are playing.
Returning.
Yeah, which is good. And thankfully, we can actually all watch it this time, which is nice. But with that all said and done, gents, what's your final tip, including margin, for Dreamtime at the G on Friday night? JR, you go first.
I'll tip us by 12 points.
Goals? Points, damn. Okay.
Yeah, goals, why not?
I tried that last week, it didn't work.
Being that we're going that way, Bronchi will kick 12, Sims will kick 15. Why not?
I like it.
That's what wants to be roughly the margin. Being a wet game.
Fair enough.
Or margin. I reckon it'd be a goal in it, and Sam Moore would kick the ceiling one.
Oh, jeez. I wouldn't mind that.
Yeah.
Like a 50-metre
long range. It will be a close one. Yeah, long range. Or don't argue, and then like the snap, like a signature Dusty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just
like a grand final versus Geelong type Dusty.
Throw Dangerfield off like there's nothing there. What are you going with, mate? What are you picking?
I'll go Richmond I'll go 17, but look, I don't have much confidence, but I really do think we're a hot chance for this. The no Lynch, no Bolter hurts a little bit, but Yeah, I think
One
we've
question
got
for you.
we've got a little bit of belief at the moment, which is good.
One question for you is, what do you think the margin will be? Do you think we'll get close to what are they trying to get to? Like they've got like a set score that they want to try and reach every week. I think it's like 95. What do you think we'll get close to? Do you think we'll get close to 90, or do you think we'll be like it'll be a low,
I think
46?
I think it'll be low. I think we'll struggle to score over 100 points for a lot of games this year, just because our firepower's not as strong. But we defend reasonably well, so it could be like an 85 to 60 type game or something like that. And especially if it's a bit wetter as well, it's obviously a bit more difficult to score. But the only thing I don't want to see another team shoot the lights out against us with goal kicking accuracy. That drives me absolutely insane. Teams,
don't give me PTSD.
I feel like we say it
please.
every week. We just come up against teams who never miss. It's bloody annoying.
We've only won 2 first quarters this year so far, so that's got to be fixed. We used to hate losing the third quarter. That used to be a weak one, but somehow now we've converted to losing every first quarter, and it's just chasing tails. So that's got to change. They've got to work that out.
I've got another question to throw up. With this particular game, there's a Yayukin award for the best on ground. Who do you think's in line for that one?
Ooh.
Tim Taranto.
Yeah, Taranto and Hopper. They've been so good for the last month. Like ever since Taranto had that really off shit game, he's not looked back since. I don't know whether it was a penny drop moment or what was going on.
I can tell you stat line right now. 31 disposals and a goal, and that will be enough to seal his winning the award.
I'll go left field and go Seth Campbell.
Oh,
kick 3 or 4, light up the G.
Yeah, I'm not saying no to that either. And a backflip. Will there be a backflip? Come on. It's got to be a backflip. That's how you win the award. He'll get 3 or 4 goals and then do the backflip, and that's what we'll give him the award of the backflip.
That's right.
That's the vote right there.
Well, Seth might even do the backflip during the war cry.
Well, Jay, who you got winning best? Who you got winning best on?
I'm thinking if it's a wet game, be a nice physical contest. Nag.
Ooh,
Yeah, true. He could get a hold of him. I don't mind that. Jeez, you better not Gray Stable. Merit winning it. Jeez.
Obviously, Nag knew last week he was in for a big game up against Sherry. He had 7 tackles at quarter time, so he was in beast mode.
He was. You could tell he was locked in. He had that look in his eye where he knew that he had to put in a big one for us to be any type of chance to get near that game. He was massive.
I just think if he wakes up in the morning and sees raindrops falling, I reckon his eyes might light up.
He does love a wet game.
Dance.
Actually, before you guys go, that's a good question there. Who's leading the rising star? I like that question.
Lawler.
It's a good one for this year. It's Lawler, is it? Okay.
He's been the number 1 rated draftee all year.
Yeah, he's ranked like second in nearly every statistically category. He's ranked like second in everything, even goals.
Yep.
You can't help but feel like an Ashcroft will be up there. Murphy Reid will get some votes as well. Xavier Lindsay's been good. Harvey Langford's had some good form as well.
In the zero hangers, even the zero hangers, I think Trainer's stuck at 4th and they can't get rid of him. So he's been there for quite a while now. So.
Well, he's got to get a nomination first.
He does.
Sorry, I know I'm rude, but Lord did not deserve that rising star this week. Or last week, sorry. I do not agree. You choked on that one, and you got nothing. It was like 19 disposals, and I just thought Kane McAuliffe, who almost won the game, 22, 23 disposals, definitely should have. They're after us, I'm telling you right now. They are not giving it to us there. Still angry about the kebab fight.
I'll put this to you. Had McAuliffe taken shots at goal and kicked them, that might have been enough to get him the award.
Yeah. I think so. That's true.
What do you have? 23 touches or something?
23.
That's 3 goals. That's a fair game. Yeah, that 3 goals. That's a fair game.
It's a Brownlow. That's a Brownlow vote.
I was about to say that's a Brownlow vote or two if you're doing those kind of numbers. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Well,
that would have EJ appearing in a robe on Monday night.
It would if McAuliffe does that. Yeah.
He'll be frothing at the mouth.
He'll have the lotion out, EJ. If McAuliffe has 22 and 3 goals.
Background would be McAuliffe and a lotion like next to each other. And him.
All right, Jez. Well, thank you for jumping on tonight. Appreciate the support and your teams for this week. Thanks everybody in chat for jumping in as well. I did see a good idea that it would be good to try and get a chat-based team put together, and I've been trying to work out how to do it, and the only way I can think of is via a poll system, but I don't think this program does that. So if I can work out a way in which to do it that's quick and easy, just chuck up random Twitter polls, true.
Yeah, just build your way around it. Maybe you need to do it for like 3 weeks away, like build it up slowly. Forward pocket, back pocket, and work your way up.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
I've got a suggestion for you. For each position, we have about 5 names, and you just use the wheel.
Yeah, the wheel. So the wheel can decide a team. That's true. I do love a wheel spin.
That's a good live video. Just you spinning a wheel.
Yeah. No, I don't mind.
Well, that way you'll have a team full of doozies because no one will pick it.
No, that's right. That's right. So thank you again, gents. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Obviously, massive game Friday night. Dreamtime at the G. Should be a huge, huge game. And then we've got the VFL on Saturday night as well. I don't even know who we're playing, but I think we're in Frankston at some, is it 7:10 or 7:30? At this stage, I think we'll be doing a live show on Friday for the Dreamtime game. And depending on my kids' situation, potentially a Saturday night one as well, because I know the wife's going to the Hawks game. I just don't know how many children I'll be left with. So depending on how that pans out, we might do a VFL live as well to see how the human meatball goes. But until next week, if we don't do anything else then, have a wonderful weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next week. Go Tigers.
Go Tigers, guys.